Hello, students. You must remember the chapter The Thief's Story, chapter 2 of the book Footprints Without Feet, where we read about Hari Singh, who was a thief by profession. Today, we are going to read about another thief, or I must say, about two thieves. This chapter is from the same book of grade 10, Footprints Without Feet, and the name of the chapter is A Question of Trust. After reading this chapter, you'll be able to appreciate the story, read the text with fluency, understand the theme of the text, express your views and ideas clearly and independently, to sketch the character of Horace Denby and the lady in red. Think about the significance of trustworthiness and honesty. The author of the chapter is Victor Canning. He was a productive British writer of novels and thrillers who flourished in the 1950s, 1960s, and 1970s. He was personally silent, writing no biographies and giving relatively few newspaper interviews. Before we start, let us compare two situations. One is the thief Hari Singh from the chapter The Thief's Story, and another is Horace Denby, thief from the present chapter A Question of Trust. Also, the lady in red, another thief from the same chapter. It is believed that thieves steal from other people but never betray each other. Thus, honor among thieves is a very popular code among thieves, despite doing all the unethical deeds. After reading this chapter, you all will make out who broke the norms of theft, who violated the popular code honor among thieves, whether it is Hari Singh or Horace or the lady in red. This story is about a thief who gets an unpleasant reward while fulfilling his hobby. Horace Denby can be termed as a thief with the difference he steals only once in a year. He plans his robberies in such a way that the money he gets from there lasts him for at least a year. He is fond of books and spends most of his loot on buying rare and expensive books. He plans meticulously before attempting a burglary. During his burglary attempt at Big House, he gathers all the necessary information and enters the house for stealing from the safe. But he is cheated by a lady thief who claims herself to be the owner of the house. Finally, Horace ends up in prison only to repent at the way he was deceived by a person from his own profession. Before we start reading this chapter, make sure to learn the meanings of the following difficult words. Hay fever means an allergy caused by dust that causes running of the nose and watery eyes. Sentence means the punishment assigned to a person found guilty by a court. Safe. It is a strong fireproof cabinet with a complex lock used for the storage of valuables. Grange is a country house with farm buildings attached. Burglar means a person who commits theft. Mended is to repair. Honor means high respect or great esteem. Horace Denby had a good reputation in the society. He was about 50 and unmarried. He made locks and had two helpers. He loved rare and expensive books. Horace robbed a safe every year. He was now out committing a robbery at a grange named Shotover Grange. For 2 weeks, Horace had studied the house of Shotover Grange as he had to burgle this house. He takes all the information like where the family had gone, how many servants were there in the house, what was the name of the dog, which was Sherry, the wiring in the house, the safe in the house, and even information like how much worth of jewels were there in the safe. With this information, Horace Danby entered the house. He had an allergy from flowers. He started sneezing. Then he heard a voice. The voice told him that he could cure the sneeze. It was the voice of a woman who stood in the doorway. She was young and British. Danby's first thought was to run. The lady told him that she would telephone the police. She would tell them about him. Horace Danby told her to let him go and forget she ever saw him. The lady put one condition for letting Horace go. She told him that she had promised her husband to take her jewels to the bank. She had, however, left jewels in the safe. She told him that she wanted to wear the jewels at a party that night. She came down to get them, but she had forgotten the numbers to open the safe. So she needed his help. Horace does not realize that he is opening the safe for another thief and that she's not the actual owner of the house. He leaves happily thinking that he is safe, but doesn't realize the fact that he had opened the safe for someone else. Thus, Horace opened the safe for her. After 2 days, a policeman had arrested him for the jewel robbery at Shotover Grange. Danby's fingerprints were found all over the room. He had opened the safe without gloves. He said to the police that the landlady of the house told him to open the safe, but the landlady was 60 years old woman. She said Danby's story is a nonsense. He then realizes that he had been fooled by a lady who was herself a thief and from the same background as his. Horace is now in prison. He often thinks of the charming and clever young lady who was in the same profession. She had simply tricked him. And now Danby gets angry when anyone talks about the honor among thieves, as he had been cheated by one from his own community. So, the message given in the story is that we should not trust anyone blindly without discovering out about that person. Dear students, I hope you have understood the theme of the chapter thoroughly. And you must have understood how easily an expert thief can be deceived by the devised tactics of another thief. And by this time, you will be able to appreciate the story, A Question of Trust, read the text thoroughly, understand the theme properly, to learn the sketch of Horace Danby and Lady in Red, and also the significance of trustworthiness and honesty. Students, there is one term in the English language which suits the situation in this chapter, and that term is irony, which means an unexpected part of a situation that seems strange or amusing. So, what, my dear students, do you think is the irony in this story? The irony is that the woman who was being considered as the lady of the house and talking big things was herself a thief. Who do you think is the real culprit in the story? Superficially, it seems that the real culprit in the story is the young woman who pretended to be a family member living at Shotover Grange. She tricked Horace Danby to believe her and managed to convince him to open the safe for her. And in return, she would let him go without informing the police. But if we see logically, there is another angle too. Students, from my point of view, the lady was not the culprit. She was smart. She was smart enough to plan cleverly and thus outpassed Horace Danby. My observation of the chapter says that the real culprit was Horace, who did not complete his task carefully. While planning for his theft, he missed to see the family members, which brought him the ruin and made him stand behind the bars. But interpretations and perceptions are always individual. So you can have your own opinion for which you should have contextual justification. My dear students, why do you think the story is titled as The Question of Trust? The lady in the house pretended to be the owner, and Horace believed her words. She was a thief too, but Horace doesn't suspect her and trusted her. Therefore, the trust Horace placed in her was questioned. And there is a doubt whether she should have trusted her or not. Therefore, the title is completely justified. Now, last but not the least, the moral of the story, a question of trust. The moral of the story is that one should not trust another person blindly. We must observe the traits and behavior of a person before believing whatever they claim to be. Trust is difficult to earn, but once lost, it becomes more difficult to gain the same. Students, I'm sure after reading the complete chapter, you will easily be able to make out who violated the code. Honor among thieves. Thank you and have a nice day.